And we'll get
Sure.
started. Okay, so I just realized you may not have a copy of my book. Okay, I will fix that. I knew I was forgetting to attach something last night. Okay, all right, so just visit chapters 1 through 3 in the book that talk about goal setting. You've probably heard every story I've ever told about it, but it's a good reminder and it just kind of boosts you with that. Yep, I need to set goals, and yep, there's some power in it. Okay, that's the whole basis of it. Now, you'll see in these outlines that there's a couple different things I do. Obviously, I work with people in all different phases of life, all different types of businesses, all different types of reasons for setting goals. And what I love to do is to support people with added material. So it could be books, it could be movies, it could be all sorts of different things, a YouTube video, but I like to support people in if they need a charge or if they're having a night where they just don't want to work and they need some motivation instead, that they have some extra resources. So there you'll see on here there's always going to be books and movies and all kinds of things. Those are not required. Those aren't, you're going to fail if you don't do this. These are simply, here's some tools for you to have so that if you need a little get up and go kind of um, thing that your heart and your head is needing, then some kind of fun thing to do. Bless you.
Excuse me.
All right. So I know Forrest Gump isn't a real show, but it just so cracks me up how he just kind of, well, I'm going to do this and doesn't think about fear and just moves forward and sees what's happened and has challenges come up and does what he makes the most of it. And then there's this show called Undefeated. And it actually goes to show you that it's more about the journey than the actual goal that you set, and that failing isn't failing. Like, not accomplishing the goal doesn't mean that you failed.
Mm-hmm.
And just how you can have pride in the work you put into something. Anyway, kind of fun book. And then there's a great book called Goals by Brian Tracy, and it just has example after example after example. You can't help but want to set a goal after you've read that book.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple different things, reasons why we set goals. These are important to understand, and I believe in them really, real strongly. And it's just, it's so amazing what can happen with some goal setting and some belief and applying these tools consistently. I would even dare not say the word effectively because everybody kind of does it different and has different ways to do it. It's more about the consistency than it is doing it perfect. I'll give you lots of tips when we write down goals and we draw pictures of them. We do dream boards. I'll give you little tips and tweaks. It'll make it a little bit better. If you do it at all, it will be better than if you don't, even if you don't do all the tips I tell you. So that's the thing. It's just a matter of doing it consistently. Okay, so one of the things with goal setting that's so important to realize is just the fact that there's so much more positive change that happens. If you just had that book on the market and didn't have a goal of 5,000 copies and had no idea where you were shooting for, I have some people I start working with that don't know what their goal is. You do have some specific goals, and I will guess that you're going to set a couple more. But luckily you have that goal, so you know if you're on track. You could choose to feel discouraged. I've only sold this many copies versus, wow, look, I've sold this many copies. It's a half full, half empty kind of thing. And luckily you're on track for getting to your full cup. The other thing that I see happen over and over again is that goal setting seems to be a real solid foundation to help people create new habits. Okay. And to see your goal, for example, you have all these really fine tuned, and I know you'll keep fine tuning them, but between your blog and your social media, those weren't habits that you had so many months ago, but now they are, and they build your business, and then you'll create some new habits. But goal setting helps you create habits. Here's a story. Here's an example. So there was a young lady I was working with who was a high school swimmer. High school swimmers. So my son swims year round, and I don't understand how people swim high school swim because it's only about 2.5, 3 months of the year. It is
Mm.
hard. It is really hard to go back to swimming after not being in the water for 9 months. Your core isn't there. It's just not easy. It's because you've got
Mhm.
this constant resistance. It's hard. And so, but this gal had this goal. She wanted a 25-second 50 freestyle. 50 free in an Olympic pool is from start. The end of the pool is 50 free, no flip turns. You just go as hard as you can from one end of the pool. That's it. It's over, and she wanted to be able to do that in 25 seconds. And she talked to her coach, who quite frankly was more of a diving coach than a swim coach, but limited funds means that's what she stuck with. Her coach told her she couldn't do that and she wouldn't accomplish that goal, which I don't know why anybody would say stuff like that to you. What do they care? Let her shoot for it, see what happens. But anyway, that's what she said. She didn't think she could do it. So I told this gal, I'm like, well, I don't know a whole lot about swimming. Technically, I just cheer really loud for my son, but I do know a little bit about mental work. How about you start visiting with me once a week? So she started coming over and hanging out with me, and we did dream boards and all these different things. Finally got down to her swim goals and this 25-second free. And she put 25s everywhere. They were cut out in vinyl, put on her walls, painted on her toenails. The 25, her mom wrote it on her lunch bag every single day and on her napkin. It was on her big lunch bucket thing that she had. 25s were everywhere. We like flooded her life with 25s. And she actually achieved her goal, actually surpassed it. And I called her mom, and because she was a good kid and she had really, really good parents. And I thought I may have had nothing to do with this. She may have done it without me, and I was fine with that. But I was curious her mom's opinion. So I called her mom, I'm like, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on, her with this goal setting. Did it help? Did it not help? How did it help? And she said, well, the interesting thing was, she goes, no, I definitely think it helped. She goes, I think we just would have kept talking about how cool this would have been and just kept talking about how great it would have been if she'd hit this 25-50 free. She says, but because we had 25s everywhere and because this goal was set, she says, I still remember it was 9 o'clock one night and she lifeguard early in the morning. And so 9 o'clock at night was kind of late for her. And she says, Mom, I'm headed down to the gym. I got to go, do this workout. And she goes, what are you talking about? It's 9 o'clock at night. And she goes, I know, but I promised myself that I would do it. Dry land means your like weights, resistance, that stuff that's not in the water. I promised myself I would do dry land training every day, and this is the only time I have to do it. And she says her habits, that's what it came down to. The habits she had changed because they were, all her goals are right there in front of her and helped her remember to create those habits. And that's why people don't set goals, is because they're afraid they're not going to create the habits, which quote unquote, then creates, ends up with
Mhm.
failure. Okay. I
Mhm.
don't believe that there's failure if you got up and kept moving and you didn't die. There really isn't failure in my opinion, but that's, the word people use. So it was pretty amazing to see the shift for her and know now that she can create the habits that she needs for whatever goal that she wants.
Mhm.
So that's why goals help that. But anyway, so often people put up the goal once and don't go back and look at it, and that's why the habit isn't made. So sometimes you have
Michelle, I've kind of got my own swimming story.
to.
So years and years ago, I set a goal to become a lifeguard, to get my lifeguard status certification.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had thought, because to use at girls' camp. And so I was going to do this. It was kind of almost my little midlife crisis because I was in my early 40s. And so I decided to um, enroll in a class at the local YMCA where I worked out. And the guy I've been kind of using for my trainer, he was kind of helping me. You had to be able to swim 10 full laps, so up and back, right? 10 full laps without stopping, and you had to be doing the breaststroke or the crawl. No, no easy rest strokes, just, the breaststroke or the crawl. And I started out and, I did one length and I was like, and I had about, I don't know, I had a couple months to get up to this. Maybe 6 weeks maybe it was only. Anyway, he's told me, he goes, I don't think you're going to make it. And I was surprised. I'm like, well, so I just set out a schedule for myself, how many, and kind of increasing. And I found out that by the time I hit 6 laps, I could do 10.
Wow.
And so once I hit this barrier of 6, I could go on to do 10. And when I enrolled in that class, it was no problem. And I even beat out in some of the little races they would hold some of these younger college kids. Like I beat out a 21-year-old college male in a
Wow.
race. You had to go get a rubber brick, and dive, get
Ah,
it, bring it back on
yeah.
your chest. I totally beat him out. And it was because I'd been training and I'd set this goal and I did. So anyway, that was a good lesson in being able to, and I just went ahead and tried it, even though this guy was kind of discouraging and didn't think I could do it.
Yep.
I showed him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't take well to people telling me I can't do things, but that and yeah, I could tell you some stories about that.
Yeah.
Parents getting in my face and telling me I can't do stuff, and yeah, that doesn't go over real well.
No.
So, but some people shut down and some people it fuels them. That's the thing, is like it doesn't, same thing
I
as,
think that they're concerned that they don't want you to be disappointed.
oh no, this was my dad telling me I would never go to college or ever serve a mission simply because I didn't have $150 to fix my car. No, it was not a productive try to help. No, it was not nice.
No. Well, I was thinking of the guy that was helping me. I think he genuinely thought I needed a lot more time to get up to that, and so I think it was a good lesson for him too.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. Yep. Okay. So, one of the things I highly, highly encourage people is to start with a bucket list. Okay. So, but we tweak that based on who you are and what you want. So, I would say my suggestion for you would be a bucket list with this book, meaning you've presented in this many countries, or you've had the opportunity to speak at some huge, I think you've talked about PTO or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you have this bucket list of experiences
Hmm.
that, and different groups of people that you're going to help. Have a personal bucket list of things that you want to do in your life. But I think you also need kind of this motivating bucket list that's based on just this project.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the fact that you want it translated into several different languages.
Oh yeah.
That would be one of the items I would suggest on your bucket list, for example. Like I said, being able to go and speak, the fact that you just did this interview with this group in Spain. You know what I mean? These things are going to keep growing, but it's going to grow faster if you write them down. So put those
I
kinds
believe
of
that.
things, put those things on paper. I encourage bucket lists to be open-ended. Okay. So meaning that you put it on your phone, on a piece of paper, something where you can keep adding to it. It's not like you just write a bucket list and never add to it again another day. You might, on your personal bucket list, you may watch some PBS show and this cool event that happens in some country, and you go, oh, I want to do that one day, and you add that to it. Okay.
Hmm.
And you may come up with another idea for a book for another age, or a product, or an app, or I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Have this a project bucket list. Okay, does that
Okay.
kind of make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Oh, I
so
wanted to did I told you about this book, The Jackrabbit Principle?
Yes,
You
in
should
fact,
check that
somebody
out.
just forwarded that to me the other day. My
Yeah.
clients did.
I remember writing something out. This is years ago, and I'm not even sure where that list is. But it's funny because I wrote these kind of like this dream, like all these things that I wanted to, and I obviously pornography wasn't part of it at that point, but I wanted to do something, that would help people, some cause or something. And I wanted to find some, and I wanted to write, and anyway, some of those things have come true
Mm-hmm.
already. And one of them was so funny. This one hasn't come true yet, but it kind of goes along with the power that you talk about in some of your stories. The power, just like writing it down, and it's so shocking when they actually come true. One of them is that I'm invited to some like gala event
Mm-hmm.
where I have to wear like a beautiful gown, right? It's like gala fundraiser events or something like that. I don't know what it would be, but for some reason, I don't know why I put that down, and that hasn't happened yet, but I could see how it might happen.
Yeah, it will.
Maybe. So, but there are other things too, and I really feel like this whole Porn Proof Kids project is part of that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's part of that because I really do believe that when you put your desires kind of out to the universe and to God, that they start coming towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And you start, and you will meet up with them eventually as you keep working towards it. So I totally believe in this concept. I think it's getting better at doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a difference between believing something and acting upon it, and then acting upon it with some kind of efficacy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how do I say this? Practicing believing. I mean, I compare goal setting to prayer, and I believe it's a way to pray always, but we don't pray only once. We
Right?
don't set goals only once.
Mm-hmm.
And we go back and revisit our goals and think about them and tweak them and, oh, but I really want this, and actually being careful about asking for what we really want.
Right.
All those kind of things. So yep. Okay. All right. So a couple perks to setting goals. I gotta think, like, we've kind of crossed over, like my agenda's a little out of order, which is totally fine. Um you've seen this, I mean, more so than most people will have at this point. But there's just this amazing part. You meet the people you're supposed to meet. You find the resources. You find the books you're supposed to. You find a website that you didn't even know to look for. You accidentally fall upon. I mean, the resources, whether it's income or time or creative outside the box thinking or problem solving, those things just expand when
Mm-hmm.
you set goals and really focus on them. It's just really cool to see what happens. And you already know that. You've seen that happen. But what you have to do, one of the things I really encourage people is to do some journaling, or somehow, somewhere. I personally have it stuck on my wall right here. I have lots of different stories of people that I've worked with that I gave some sort of advice to, and then this is the success that they had out of it. I have to hang on to those when I'm wondering, do I really make a difference? Or, these different things, or is
Mm-hmm.
this really going to grow? Or what do I do next? And it's like, okay, I have these beliefs. It gives me a way to calm my heart and to problem solve and realize I'm going to come up with the next solution that I need.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe putting it in a journal where it's a closed book and you go back to it's fine. If you need it more visual, like I said, it's right here on my wall by my computer. It's all these little sticky notes and this big collage on my wall. And every time I have someone send me a success story, I put a little note about it on a post-it and throw it on my wall. And it's right here for me to look at all the time when I don't want to get on the phone, or I'm too tired to write an agenda, or whatever it might be that day, that I'm still human too. That they're fun little success stories.
Yeah, I've started collecting in a document things that people write. to me. They email me or they send me messages about how great the book is and how they're so happy about. I mean, that's it besides the Amazon reviews, but just
Right.
other things. And so I I think I need to do. I can go back and do more of that actually because sometimes people just put it as comments on the blog, but sometimes people email me personally or they Facebook me, which is kind of message me. So
Right. But what I want you to hang on to are actually the ways in which this has become accomplished.
okay,
Do you see what I'm saying? Like the people that you've met, like how this
okay,
goal has been accomplished through how your desires have come about. So when you hit a new wall, let's say you want the book, let's just use like a hypothetical example. Let's say you decide, I feel really strongly this book needs to be translated in this language. How am I
mhm,
going to find the right person? How am I going to get it marketed? How am I going to get it produced in that country? Or, whatever these little roadblocks or problems are going to be. And you go, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I met this person that it didn't make any sense that I should meet them, but I did. That's what I'm talking about.
okay,
Those kind of stories where your life, your goal has been accomplished because of your own personal little miracles. Yes, having all those stories and how people have been impacted by the book, it's great fuel to keep you going when maybe there's a
I
day
see
you
what you
don't.
mean then.
Yeah. But these are two different types of motivations depending on what you're facing that day. Like say if you're having that, I do not know how this is going to get accomplished, you can go, well, I didn't know how XYZ was going to be accomplished either, and somehow it was. And to keep yourself calm and to keep going forward. Okay, we are going to go over motivational styles.
Okay.
I think I've got to put this agenda in a different order. Okay, skip all the way down to 7, and then I'm going to go back to the tracker.
Okay.
Okay, so we have talked a little bit about titles or change the world. And the interesting thing is, that you work differently when you stay with that change the world. But it's really funny because there is this piece of you that the money and titles or, the external and that validation and people appreciating your work, that's important too. You just gotta it's just about being self-aware. That's all it
Mhm,
is. It's
mhm,
not that
mhm.
there's a right or wrong or anything or one's worldly and one's not or anything like that. It's just a matter of being like, hey, taking a deep breath. Like somebody the other day, I was talking to a business coach and there was a deal that I hadn't quite closed yet, and he kind of flippantly said, "Oh, those people will do that, and then you'll never close a deal with them." And I was like, I had to like stop and go, okay, just really, I didn't like what you had to say, but why did I not like it? Is there any truth in it? And you know, it's one of those things. It just you need to be self-aware. And I was like, no, I know how to close a deal. I know what I'm doing. It's fine. He doesn't know the whole story. He wasn't there. It'll be okay. But I could have got riled up about it.
Right.
And so just understanding these things about yourself when you're having that moment where you're going back and forth and you're like, man, now I'm putting out money again and I want to like it would be okay to put a little bit more in my retirement. You know what I mean? It's like you'll have just those little moments and just to be self-aware and that it's okay. It's totally okay to want both. Okay. So the
Okay.
other two questions are first of all, and I think I know the answer to this, but you need to say it, is do you like variety or consistency better? Like, do you want your day to be the same and to have a nice solid plan? Or do you want to be able to get up in the morning and know you get to do something different every day?
Well, I think you say you know, and I, in some ways, think I know, but I actually don't know because I'm constantly trying to become more consistent. And like you're talking about becoming more consistent in my, social media, and that has really been tough. I mean, it's hard, and it's only with Hootsuite that's helped me a little bit. But I want to actually be able to get up and know what I'm going to do so I feel like calmer. But I also like having a variety of things to do. And the thing is this, with this job, you know, I do have a variety of things to do. I really do. I mean, so it's kind of built in
But
to it.
but you like a plan, like your little chart for figuring out, I'm going to build up to being able to do 10 laps. Okay. You like the check off. You like a plan for that particular part of your life.
I do.
Okay.
Like when I
So
travel, I have the whole itinerary set out.
yeah.
You know, to the practically to the minute. This is what we're going to do here. This is what we're, and it makes me feel like, okay, we're spending all this money on a vacation, and I know that we're going to get a lot out of it. And some people hate that. I have two sisters that hate that, doing that. But yeah, anyway.
But so there's this strong need for consistency with you. And you need to just be aware of that,
Yeah.
so that when this variety stuff comes in, and you're good at it, you go, okay, I can take the variety, but I have to have a way to be consistent. I mean, social media is like variety, 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 because you did the same thing over and over again. People will check out and not read it. You have to spice it up. You have to do a little scare tactic story now and then, but then you do lots of empowering, and then you
Mm-hmm.
share a story about someone who appreciated the book and how impact them, and then and so it's kind of like this. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but I gotta have a system to my back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like I said, all this is about just being self-aware, so that
Mm-hmm.
when you make a game plan, when you put down your goal, you know how to do it in a way that you will keep moving, and you're less likely to sabotage yourself, or um, just drop the ball and not get it done. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just, all it is about being self-aware, and that
Mm-hmm.
I like variety, but this is how I can handle it, and so and work around that, and also being able to explain to your team, like the gal who wrote the book Get Motivated that I take this material from. She's like, I've been able to make an agreement with my team. See, she's not a group person. She's well, this is okay. Let me ask the next question and tell the story. So the next one is, you like to work on your own or in groups? Okay. Is it turn on the music, everybody gets a job, we all clean the house together, or just make sure it's done by Tuesday at 6? I don't care when you do it. I'm going to do mine, you do yours. Are you a group or an individual person?
Um, so obviously there's a continuum here. I think I like having the power of that. You have to work in a group. I mean, you have to have others helping, because you've got to have more than your own brain. Your own brain is just not good enough. That's why having a team is so important. But I'm not always that great at like working with a team. I think I've gotten better. So I don't actually know how to answer that question as far as enjoy. I mean, I mean, with this thing, I tend to work alone, although I don't. I mean, like on the book, I was probably on the phone every other day with my friend Claudine, and then every week with my co-author. And
But that's still not a group. That's still, those people, like the previous church that I went to, there's this group of girls, and they always posted, they got together once a month, they posted their group picture and they got together, and it just totally fueled them. They loved getting together in a group. They went home, they felt better, they were better moms. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I cannot figure out who to listen to. All these conversations are going on. I don't feel like I'm connecting with anyone, because I'm just getting little pieces of things. Like, it doesn't feel, I don't come home and feel rejuvenated. I come home and feel drained because I couldn't figure out who to talk to. Okay.
that's not me. I actually like being in a I like getting together with people and being in that group. In fact, So that's a social thing, right? That's a social thing. Like 4th of July, we had these friends come down and we rented that boat and
Mm-hmm.
we had this great time being together. And I loved it. And actually, to be honest, I have this like, so I don't know how this really, I mean, I do work alone, but I also like to be with a group because I have a specific kind of like emotional pain
Mm-hmm.
when I don't have, when I'm not socializing. Like, seriously, I, it's interesting. If I go the whole week and I haven't been with people other than just my husband or my, I get kind of, I don't know, it's weird.
Right.
So
Well,
I come back from these group things feeling energized.
okay.
So I think I'm more that way, although because of some, I think, aspects of my personality in the past, I'm not always like, if you're working in a team, like in a presidency or whatever, I've sometimes been too outspoken and not like as aware of the feelings of the group and
Mm-hmm.
the dynamics of working in a team. I think I've gotten better at that, but so that's what I'm trying to say, and I'm not sure if it's really coming across.
Yeah.
So socially, I definitely feel like I love to go out and be with groups and you know and do that.
Right. So, and that's the thing. And it's just kind of, but at the same time, you have that piece that you like to work by yourself, and so it's like I said, all it is about being kind of self-aware. Like when you're feeling sort of off, or when you're feeling motivated. How did that motivate me? Well, I should do that more. Or why am I feeling off? What am I needing to do to get back on my groove? Do you know what I mean? These are
Yeah.
just kind of self-reflective, help you realize when you're setting goals, and then when you're making the path to get to that goal, how you want to put it down on paper so that it fuels you.
So
Um,
give me an example of how knowing how well you work, if you work well alone or in a group. Because
so
I do work well alone, but I also really crave the group. So
right.
I don't know.
Well, so okay, so this gal, for
And
example, and this is so something I would do. She knew she had to work. She had to have these meetings that she worked with her team and people who worked under her, and in this conference room. But they would get talking about these different things that she just may not care about, or she had to give the okay on, but didn't want to be that involved in the conversation. She'd sit and check email while this group meeting was going on, because then she was getting stuff done, and it wasn't just this hashing and it didn't fuel her to sit and discuss things. Does that
Mhm.
make so?
Yeah.
That's an example that whereas someone, they get in a group and they brainstorm and bounce things off of each other, and it's, a ton of fun. So that kind of thing.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. So based on that, I forgot what I was going to. Oh, the tracker. Okay. That's what it was. I'm like, I had a plan here in my brain. Okay. So do you have access to your tracker there?
Right here.
Alrighty. Okay, so look at that. There's two things that I highly recommend, and quote unquote require that people do on a consistent basis. And at the bottom two boxes, it shows daily inspiration and review your goals.
Mm-hmm.
Those two things, okay? You get to pick. Okay, if you go straight up, it's going to say target points. And what that is you pick how many days in the week that you do that. I highly recommend 5 to 7. Obviously, it's up to you. This is only supposed to take a few minutes to do.
Okay.
Reviewing your goals, and you have different types of goals. You're going to have life goals, and you're going to have this project goals. And those would be things that I'd have you review. You're going to work on a bucket list for your business, and you're going to work on a personal bucket list. Those are the only two things of goals that you need to review for a while. Then we'll do some other projects. So start with that.
So
And
so just to get this straight, because by looking at this, I actually don't know what this is.
okay, that's what I'm telling you. So
I
we're
know.
going to get to that.
Okay.
Okay, so just pick in your target box how many days. Okay, so daily inspiration. Um,
I'm going to say 5.
okay, so in daily inspiration, that can be a book you're reading, a book you're listening to, a blog you follow, and I recommend that you have something in your field of interest that keeps you motivated, wanting to keep working in that, and then one that's personal development. And for some, that's scriptures. For some, it's power positive thinking. For some, it's, you know, a book about selling books. For some, something like that. But that's what I personally recommend. And you can choose how many days a week you're going to do it. I truly believe that the more you do it, the more it fuels you. So that's up to you. So those two things are things that you get to do until it's a consistent habit, and you can change those later if you want. But I feel strongly that those two things need to happen until there's some of anyway, depending on your goal and what you want to get to. And you may do those forever because they're good things to do.
Okay.
Now you have 3 more boxes where you pick short-term goals that are similar to these that help you get to your long-term goals. And you can put things down that have to do with personal goals or your project goals or family life goals, but it's the actions that take you to them. Like for some people, they function better because they got up and took a walk every day. They're going to put down a walk. And it sounds like, what does that have to do with business? Well, they think better. That just is how it works for them.
So Michelle, do
Mm-hmm.
you have one of these that are filled out in your book to give me like a, because I think you totally get this, but I don't totally get this. Like
Right.
I think you totally get it, but
We're walking through it.
but they have like titles on here.
No, I'll send you a sample of one that's filled out, but we can
So,
talk you through it.
okay, so let me ask you this. So this daily inspiration, I would just nearly check off if I had done my daily inspiration.
Yep.
And then I would also check off if I had reviewed my goals.
Right.
And then, but these are actually goals.
Okay. Your camera, you've got to put it up so I can see it.
So
Those
these
next
3, yeah.
Okay, go down to the bottom though. That's where your points are. You're going to fill out right next to those 2 things, your 3 different short-term, your basically the habits you're wanting to create. So let's just pretend you weren't really good at your social media thing right now, okay? But you are. But let's just pretend you weren't. And you're like, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm posting really solid material 4 days a week. Okay? That would be an example. It's the habits that you're knowing you need to create to get to your long-term goal.
Okay.
So can you think of a couple things that you've been wanting to get more consistent about that can be personal goals, it can be project and business goals, it can be spiritual goals, it can be interpersonal relationship, it could be a date with your husband, anything like that. What are a couple actions that you're feeling like if you were more consistent at, you would get to whatever X, Y, and big goal is? And you can change these later, but I just want you to put something down for now so that I can show you how to fill it out.
Okay, so let's just for instance, tracking calories.
Okay, so put down just that you're going to track your calories every day or however many days. So that's where you go, you write that down, you go up to the target points, and you choose how many days a week you're going to keep track of your calories.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so write in that number.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll check it off, and at the end of the week, you'll add up your checks in that row, and then you'll put it in actual points at the top.
Okay.
Okay, then After you've got those 3 goals, you're going to add your target points across horizontally. So the
Mm-hmm.
maximum number of points you could have is 5 times 7, which is 35. That's the most points you could have.
Okay.
Okay. So if you said 5 days a week on these things, you would have a maximum of 25 points, for example. Okay. But every day can have a different, or excuse me, each habit can have a different amount of days you plan on.
Okay, so here there's 2 boxes here.
Okay, so let me explain those. So on the right-hand side of the page, if you see it says once a week actions. Is that what it says?
It says
Something.
there's 5 point, and then there's weekly activities, and there's a little chart.
Okay. So what that is, there are lots of things in our life that we want to do consistently, but consistent means once a week versus several times a week.
Right.
Okay, so like a date with your husband or some sort of church service, or maybe you blog consistently every week, or maybe one day is spent on finding new places to speak, or it can be whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Those items get 5 points.
Okay.
Pick how many once a week things that you want to do, you write them in, you add up those times 5. So say you have 3, that would be 15 points. In your box that says 5 points, you're going to put 15 in for target.
Oh, okay. Got it. So this box here,
that corresponds to the weekly activity. The once
this
a week
point is the once a week one.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Yep.
I'm not seeing it. This one here, and then this one is okay.
You're going to go all the way over and then add them up after you decide your habits you're going to work on.
Okay. 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 Once a week. And okay, so those are each 5. So now I've got 15. I've got 3. Okay, so now I've got 15. All right.
Okay. So then you just add them across.
42. 42 is the total points.
Okay.
The target points.
Target points. So whatever then you check your boxes off through the week. You take those, add them up, and from there, you will end up with a percentage.
Okay. Okay.
So then what's nice, what people like about this system is they go, whether they got 20% or they got 100%, they know they did something towards their goals.
Right.
They don't have to beat themselves up because they have on paper that they did something.
Right.
Okay. So I actually have another chart that I bring in a couple weeks, and it shows your, okay, so let's just say you were selling books and you wanted to see if the activities you were doing actually increased your sales. It then puts those 2 lines right next to each other to see if based on activity you're hitting the goal that you want.
Got it.
the 10 week thing. You have to find a way to quantify the goal. Every now and then I have someone who has a goal that isn't quantifiable. Luckily, selling a book is very easy to count. So that one's really easy. But, you'll have someone who, if they're not going to a swim meet or something where, like I said, that you can't quantify it, sometimes it's a little hard. But then we'll see if based on action, does something increase it? Does something not increase it? Or I got a jump, but then it went down. You go back and you review your actions. Oh, look, I didn't do my social media that week. I mean, I don't know, but do you know what I mean? Then you can kind of reflect. It's a nice way to get some feedback, kind of interesting
Mm-hmm.
to track.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter of being consistent with the habits first, and then we start tracking some things. So one thing at a time. So your assignments for the week are to get your bucket list for your. I'm calling your thing a project instead of a business because you're not money based, and so unless you want me to use a different word, I'm going to call it project for now.
Okay.
Okay. So getting your bucket list for your project and your personal bucket list. So you actually have two bucket lists to work on because I think you're going to be better mentally separating those two, just kind of knowing what I know about you. And then doing your tracker and doing something using a journal or a board that you post little notes on, something that helps you reflect on ways that you see little miracles or when goals are accomplished, that when you hit another bump, you can go back and review it and know that you're going to go over this hump too, whatever it might
Okay.
be. Okay.
Okay.
So those are your couple things to work on for the week. And
Okay.
we'll be chatting more. Sound good?
All right. That
All
sounds
right.
great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you.
You bet. Have
All
fun.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.